Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. Thank you for joining us. Before we get too far into it, go ahead and subscribe, whatever platform you're watching or listening to this on, go ahead and make it permanent. And we want you to know whenever we have new podcasts come out. My name is Caleb Talley. I'm the Director of Marketing and Events at Startup Junkie, joined by my co-host, Jeff Emerine. And we are honored today to be joined by special guest Colin McIntosh of Sheets Giggles. Colin, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Colin, tell us, what is Sheets Giggles?
Well, aside from shameless product placement, Sheets Giggles is, in my opinion, the most differentiated bedding brand on the market. We make sheet sets, comforters, duvet covers, throw blankets out of a material called eucalyptus lyocell, and we don't use any cotton or polyester. And our eucalyptus lyocell is actually softer, more breathable, more moisture wicking, and it's also much more sustainable versus cotton, polyester, bamboo viscose, using a lot less water, less energy, and no insecticides or pesticides.
Awesome. So total sustainability play.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it's a really fantastic product. I mean, it's a closed loop system, and it's considered one of the most sustainable fabrics in the world. And you know, it's just such a great product in general. Because it's man-made, it actually has a perfectly round filament. And so it actually wicks away moisture and evaporates it evenly across the fabric. And so you never wake up in a pool of sweat. And because it manages moisture so well, it also doesn't allow for bacteria growth. And so it's also resistant to things like dust mites and anything else that would need moisture to grow. And so your sheets also stay fresh for longer. It's really stellar.
That's awesome. So where did this, so I'm going to ask, where the idea came from, and I would love to hear, the less than true story that one might find on your website, and then I want to hear the true story,
the actual story.
Yeah, you saw that, huh?
The story behind the story.
Desert Island, yeah. So we kind of are making fun of. So if people listening go to sheetsgiggles.com/about. Caleb's alluding to the fact that we've got some ridiculous stories that we rotate on there. How did Colin come up with Sheets Giggles? Because this industry drives me crazy. Whenever I listen to like a founder story on like how I built this for one of our competitors, it's always like, I stayed in a hotel and I just felt the sheets and I thought there had to be a better way. And it's like, that's like come on, man. Like, you didn't like start a company because you stayed at a hotel. But but for me, my story is even weirder. My story is the totally true story is the most bizarre thing in the entire world. I was watching War Dogs with Miles Teller and Jonah Hill in June of 2017. It's a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
And Miles Teller's character is selling sheets at the back of a pickup truck, and he keeps getting turned down. And as somebody who was working in startups at the time, it frustrated me to no end. And I turned to my then girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend, obviously, because this is the type of person that I am. I was like, this is ridiculous. I was like, he got all this inventory. He didn't do any market research. He has no idea who his demographic is, doesn't understand his pricing. You know what? Pause the movie. And I literally wrote a business plan for a bed sheets company that night. And whenever I write a business plan for a company, I always buy a domain and I gravitate towards what's a funny name for blank. And I thought, what's a funny name for a bed sheets company? Sheets Giggles, that's a funny name. And so I bought sheetsgiggles.com. I got all the social handles at Sheets Giggles everywhere. And then 4 months later, I ended up getting laid off from the startup that I was working at 1 p.m. on a Monday. And for anyone who's been laid off at 1 p.m. on a Monday, you know that you kind of snap a little bit inside. And so I bought an embroidered bathrobe and incorporated a pun 3 weeks after that. So that's
awesome.
The story. But there's a deeper why there too, like why the market, why bed sheets, and I can talk about that if you want, but that's the true story of the idea.
And that 3 weeks in between that day of infamy is that like blanked out or?
Yeah, that 3 weeks is pretty blurred. I mean, I slept in a lot. I packed up I was living across the street from the office in downtown Denver. So I literally moved here from Seattle to go all in on this startup that I had helped to found with my friends. And I wasn't CEO. I was just head of biz dev, and I lived on 7th and Grant, and we worked at 8th and Grant. So it was a 45-second walk to work, and I didn't need to live there anymore. So I moved out, and I basically just I get to a point where you decide, all right, I'm gonna do one of two things. I'm done with this startup life, and I'm gonna go work at Amazon or Microsoft or Boeing or whatever, Starbucks, go back to Seattle, be with my friends, and not worry about, this terrible benefits and low pay and long hours and, not making any of the decisions. Or I'm going to do the exact opposite, and I'm going to start my own company and nothing in between, right? So like mine or large. And so I decided that it was the perfect time in my life to start something of my own. I had great mentors out here, good connections, advisors, investors. This is 3 years ago now. And I decided that, my worst case scenario was still pretty good, which is a very privileged position to be in. If I'm going to go work at Amazon, I can do that when I'm a year older versus, at that point in time. And so I ended up incorporating 3 weeks after I got laid off. But in those 3 weeks, I wrote a business model, I did a brand identity map, I did a whole financial model, passed it around to a few people I trusted, and got my initial feedback and felt pretty good about it.
Awesome. So, go ahead, Jeff.
No, you got it.
I was just going to ask, you mentioned that, why Sheets, why that market? I'm curious to know.
Well, so it's a question I get asked a lot, which is super fair. And, it's a really odd thing for a 27-year-old guy to start a bed sheets company. Now I'm 30, I'm an old man now. Basically, the long story short is that it was my perfect business model. And what I mean by that is after my last company was a wearable technology company, and it was a fantastic company, Techstars, funded by some really incredible investors, millions of dollars raised. It was trying to end sexual assault and violence with like a Fitbit type device that you could press in an emergency. The problem is that we had to build our own market. There were a lot of problems. There were a bunch of things that unfortunately went wrong. And so I learned from that, and I basically said, okay, I want a massive commodities market that I don't have to build from scratch. I want a highly fragmented space so I don't have to chip away at a market leader. I wanted something that was largely traditionally physical retail so I could bring it online with a direct-to-consumer model. And then I wanted something that was preferably in a very flat, boring brand space so I could zig where everybody else was zagging. And I looked at my perfect business model that I wrote all those things down on a piece of paper. I also wanted a sustainable product with a vertically integrated supply chain with no Bluetooth, no firmware, no software engineers on staff, nothing like that. And I literally wrote out my perfect business model, and I looked at all the domains that I owned, and sure enough, I owned sheetsgiggles.com, and I had been enamored with the idea of this brand for a few months at that point, and it fit it perfectly. $12 billion market, growing 10% year over year. Top 5 players only own 27% of the field. Mostly bought in physical retail, zero brand loyalty, no switching costs. So it was a really, really great industry to enter, and I'm really glad that I did.
How did you pick this fiber? I mean, it sounds like you've got this miracle fiber. What was that that had to be a process too, right?
Yeah, so initially I actually wanted to do bamboo viscose, and then I learned about the carbon sulfide that's used to create it and how it's very harmful for workers and the environment. And bamboo viscose is related to eucalyptus lyocell. So they're both what's called cellulosic rayon, which is rayon fabric from cellulose wood. And so basically what they do is they harvest the wood, and we harvest from biodiverse farms that are managed in coordination with NGOs that protect the forest from the forest industry. So no natural forest, nothing like that. And we harvest their wood, and it's actually a closed loop system that reuses up to 100% of the solvents in each batch of the wood pulp production. And so with bamboo viscose, you have this carbon sulfide that you can't reuse, and that is actually very harmful to the environment. And that creates a lot of toxic runoff, especially depending on the manufacturer. And then with eucalyptus lyocell, you can keep reusing the solvents. It's amine oxide as a solvent used, and you can reuse it in every single batch of production, up to about 99.5%. And it's also breaks down with no ill effects on the environment whatsoever. And it's just a really stellar product. So that's the 3rd generation of that same cellulosic rayon process, with modal being the 2nd generation of it. And so it's much improved versus the bamboo viscose. It also uses less water as well. And so in terms of how I found it, I was just doing materials research and stumbled across lyocell and started meeting with different manufacturers that were able to produce a minimum order quantity for me of my own designs of my own product. There you're talking about big MOQs in this industry. I mean, I had to guarantee a multi-$100,000 purchase order to get somebody to start working with me. And I did not have several hundred thousands of dollars when I guaranteed that. So that was probably the biggest risk that I ever took on this business.
Did the economics work out at volume though? Or I mean, once you get
They
into
do.
butts,
Yeah.
so okay, that's great.
Yeah, they do. You know, initially we underpriced our sheets tremendously. I mean, I did an Indiegogo campaign in May of 2018, and we did $69 for any size sheet set. Partially because I wanted to drive a really, really good deal for our crowdfunding, and also because I thought $69 was a funny price for a set of bed sheets. And nobody got the joke, and I underpriced our sheets for no good reason. And so I know it's the dumbest thing. But so in any case, that the economics work out of scale. I mean, your variable cost structure with sheets is really COGS, freight, duties, fulfillment, returns, discounts, and marketing. And the marketing piece is the most important part because it's the most variable. And so that's the piece that we've been able to drive down 50% year over year since this is our third year in business, and last year it's now half of that cost. So we've been working really hard on that, and but overall I think the business really does scale well. Still, man, it is so damn hard to build something that's scalable.
I mean, you're all direct to consumer now. It's all online sales.
We do about 70% on sheetsgiggles.com and then about 30% on Amazon. Yeah.
Any plan to go through normal retail distribution?
Not until the vaccine is distributed. But
right.
just being completely honest, like we were gonna try to do some retail this year, and I'm happy that we didn't. I think we'll probably do like an HSN QVC deal in 2021, and then we were just on Good Morning America the other week, and we're getting some national brand recognition now. And so I feel really good about those larger channels and those riskier channels. But wholesale, we're already doing private label sheet lines for a few mattress companies. Don't want to say who, but there's somebody out there that's selling eucalyptus sheets that are not theirs. But yeah, so it's been really cool for us to build our channels. But right now it's mostly our .com and Amazon.
And what is that, Mark?
Fun fact. Sorry. Fun fact. It is the first time I get to say this to someone. If you go to Amazon.com/sheets, that's us. Wow. So Amazon.com/sheets, and that'll take you to our storefront.
That's awesome.
Cool,
right? Yeah.
So what is the marketing strategy? You said you've been able to cut that in half year over year. What's that marketing strategy look like?
Honest to God, I think it's pretty basic when it comes, and my VP of marketing would kill me for saying that. She does incredible work. Basic in the sense of like the distribution channels are what you would expect they are, right? They're the marketing channels. They're Facebook, they're Instagram, they're Google, they're Amazon, they're podcasts, they're radio advertising. It's exactly the DTC playbook that I think everybody is fairly familiar with. I think the difference is in the content, and that's the whole crux of this play with Sheets and Giggles. And what I wanted to do was, I wanted to start a company that I could have just a ton of fun with and be really authentic with. And I think that that's the thing that has really differentiated us from other people, is both the authenticity in the marketing, where we're not somebody who's like, we're changing the way that cultures interact with each other. It's like, no, you sell suitcases on the internet. That's cool, but like own it. And we sell sheets on the internet, and we love it. And so we take that and we show three men in bed together drinking red wine with avocado face masks on. We show female models sawing 2x4s in half in the bedroom with a circle saw just for the joke about sawing logs, snoring, right? The content that we do is insane compared to the rest of the space. And if it makes us laugh, if it makes me laugh, it goes. And that's, I think, the thing that other brands don't see, is that they keep putting this stuff on Instagram that's like the white sheets and the white walls and like the French press coffee on the edge of the bed, like placed ever so precariously. Like that stuff is so trite and easy and boring. And when you're on Instagram and you're scrolling, I'm not gonna stop for the same thing I've seen 1,000 times, but I might stop if I see a guy sleeping in a bathtub for an allegory about the amount of water that cotton sheets use. You know what I mean? Like that's and so I think it's honestly the content is our biggest differentiator, and then also the authenticity in the philanthropy. So We've given $40,000 this year to COVID-19 relief in Colorado. We've donated hundreds of sheet sets to Denver area homeless shelters to help isolate symptomatic individuals to stop the spread. We plant a tree for every single order this year. That'll be over 30,000 trees planted to areas in the U.S. that need reforestation in the wake of these wildfires. And, we donated 20% of our sales over Black Friday weekend to the charity of the customer's choice. They just selected a checkout and they get to donate 20% of their order to whatever charity they want to do. It was over like, I think $12,000, $13,000 that we donated in a couple days to like 125 distinct charities. And that stuff is like, I've worked at companies trying to end sexual assault. I've worked at companies trying to end animal euthanasia. And this is the most impact I've ever made in my career just by selling bed sheets. And I get to do that as just this vehicle that lets us do so much stuff. And it's awesome. I think our customers and community really love that it's just a purely, fun, do good, upbeat brand.
You mentioned impact. Given that this is an impact play, did you pursue impact investors as part of your capital strategy, or what's the game plan been there?
That's a good question. I haven't. Colorado Impact Fund should definitely call me. But
they will after this.
They will after this. Yeah. No, I actually haven't raised that much capital. We raised a grand total of $2 million grand total. We're like 90% revenue funded. We're very close to break even month over month, and I think that actually we're hitting it now, which is great. And we've scaled to an 8-figure plus run rate 24 months after shipping our first box, which makes me really, really happy.
That's incredible. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you. It's if you told me, like, I think that entrepreneurs like don't. Anyway, sorry to answer your question. I was gonna say we don't stop and smell the roses, but like if you in terms of the impact investing, I really think that like they could go down that route a little bit more. But it always, if I can be completely honest, it always felt very disingenuous to me because there are a lot of people that are like, but this is genuine on my part if I were to do that, because there are a lot of people who are like, I have a problem and I have a solution and I'm trying to like build this solution in this world. And for me, it's like, I have a business model and I have a great product and I love my company and I want to build it. And we're going to do good as a result of that. But I always felt like if I went to an investor and was like, let's change the world with sustainability, like it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't, and which is weird, I mean, sustainability is a very hot button topic for me and it's something I care deeply about, but it wasn't like the guiding sort of like,
you don't want to lead with that as a marketing engineer, right? I mean,
we close with that. That's our close. We lead with this. Exactly. So I didn't want to take that money from somebody who, was starting up a company that could, save lives or that sort of thing. But yeah, I was just going to say a second ago, man, I was just reflecting earlier this week. Like if you told me 24 months ago, I was in the warehouse by myself, packing boxes, 1,000 square feet is all we had, packing boxes at 10 p.m., on the phone and answering emails at the same time. And, he told me 2 years later, we'd doing over $1 million in a month, like, it'd be crazy, it'd be crazy. And it's really exciting. So
yeah, to your point though, having been through this journey a bunch of times myself, you got to enjoy that journey. So it's not to say that you ever really get complacent, but you got to enjoy it, because when you get to whatever that end point is, if you're a serial entrepreneur guy, which you probably are,
it's my first time, so we'll see.
Well, you're going to immediately be ready for whatever that next big adventure is. And so you got to enjoy the journey, because those endpoints are endpoints and maybe there's a payout and whatnot, but the journey is the fun part.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I tell my team is like, I send them a long message after we have a Purple Friday sale every year, the week before Black Friday. It's our biggest sale of the year. And this year it was like hundreds of thousands of dollars in a single day. It was absolutely, it was crazy. I couldn't believe it. And I told my team, like, I'm so proud. Like, working with good people is so important to me, because like your team impacts your life more than your family does. Like, just does. It's true. And I'm a former recruiter, and I just believe that like the people that you work with are so impactful to your mental health and your physical health. And I was just telling them that like since I started the company, we've only ever lost one person, and that was within 3 weeks after they started. We just realized it wasn't a fit. Other than that, we've never let somebody go. No one's ever quit. And I'm just so privileged to like work with the people that I do. And getting through this year, it's been such a tough year, and like getting through this and getting through it whole and hiring a couple new people and growing the company and getting through some tough times together and being able to not only do that but also plant 30,000 trees and donate 40 grand and donate hundreds of sheet sets to shelters. Like it's been very surreal, and I'm very I'm feeling very thankful as we head into 2021, especially because not everybody this year has gotten through it whole, and definitely want to be cognizant of that.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So how do you go about, as you scale and as you, moving forward, how do you go about building and adding to that team to maintain that same level of, I guess, family and sense of culture?
I don't know. I feel like half my team probably hates me, to be completely, and it's only because like, I mean, I don't know. It's probably because of lottery, but like, I'm a hard boss in a lot of ways. I put pressure on people, like, but it's all from a good place, and like, I try to, the culture for me is like, I try to just run the company the way that I always wanted to be managed when I was an employee, and that's why people, as a recruiting principle, people hire people like themselves. So to answer your question, I will probably continue to do that until I start having other people hire people at the company. I don't know how long I can do it for, maybe the first few dozen or so. But, when you hire people like yourself, what ends up happening is, for me, is I have a bunch of like hardworking, autonomous lunatics running around who can't stand being micromanaged and are extremely hostile to 9 a.m. meetings. And so I like sometimes I want to have a 10 a.m. meeting, and the first word is why, and the second word is no, and I'm like, God damn it, I'm the CEO, and if I want a meeting, I can call a meeting. But then I realize like it's I can't micromanage them because then they'll leave, and so there's a saying, right? It's a very cliche saying, but I think it's 100% true. It's like good founders don't build companies, they build teams.
Yeah, that's
true. And I like the people that I've hired, I trust them just completely intrinsically, because I think that they're all on the same train, which is like, we want to be independent. We don't want to have to ask for December 23rd off to see our families. We don't want to have to beg for a sick day. We want to be able to take Friday off when we need, and we know we're going to have to work a Saturday when we have to. Like, then they're on that train, and that's what I've like tried to like and put on them, is that the freedom that I'm able to give myself with this company is the freedom that I want to give each and every one of them with this company as well. Because you either work 40 years and then you die, or you figure out a way to become independent, and that's what I'm really trying to do for my team. So it's that type of culture that I impart upon people in the interview process, and I make sure that they understand that there's a goal that we're all working towards, and that we can have that, not just working towards it, but we can have that, what we're looking for, that freedom in the meantime, and we don't have to sacrifice years and years and years to get there. You can I'm a big 80-20 guy. Like, you can do both. And in any case, I think that the trick is to like hire good people, let them do good work, don't micromanage them, judge the outcomes, not the along the way nitty gritty stuff. Otherwise, you'll drive them crazy and you drive yourself crazy, and good people will leave. And I like to give raises without asking and give bonuses without asking, and that always made me feel very seen at my last company when I got a raise without asking for it.
You obviously assembled a great team, and you've got great presence off to a really good start. What does winning look like, 5 to 10 years down the road? Is it, are you building to exit? Are you building to take it public? What do you think?
No idea. Just no idea. I've always said, like, people ask me that when we were raising money, they're always like, so like, what's the exit? Like, and I'm like, man, so I used to work at a hedge fund called Bridgewater Associates in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible place. No, I'm joking. But it's not for everybody. But so they have a saying where it's like you look for the optimal outcome, and you don't know what the optimal outcome is, and it's constantly changing. But you always look for the optimal outcome. And so as the years go on, as the months go by, like you inform your picture of it. And so initially, I started the company. I was like, I love Purple Mattress, that brand. If you guys know Purple. I was like, I love them. I'm going to emulate them. Our colors are purple. Like their brand voice, they're so funny. Like I just love their content, love their products. And I was like, and I want to be acquired by them one day. Like that was my goal. And then, you start up and you get a little traction, and then it's like, oh, now I've got my own self-sustaining business here. Like, what can I do with this? Oh, now I can raise a little growth fund, a little growth round. Like, what can we do there? And, now we're having the same conversation heading into 2021. We haven't raised money in over a year and a half. And now having that same conversation heading into 2021, where it's, all right, we just scaled this, here's where we are. Here's where we thought we would be. What can we do to supercharge this? Do we want to supercharge this? Do we want to the slow and steady win the race, or should we go, full out blitz? And those are just conversations that are constantly evolving. So overall, to answer your question, I would love to look back in 5 years and say that we built a large national brand that does a lot of good in the world and is very well respected and makes a lot of people laugh, and that we can all be proud of. And whether that's a public company or a subsidiary of Mattress Corp, I'm pretty agnostic about that, as long as we can achieve the goal.
I think that's actually a great mindset. Too many people that get on the sort of the venture scale treadmill. I mean, there's only one outcome. It is a treadmill. There's only one outcome, and they're going to drive you towards that outcome. And it's because they're answering to their LPs and they've got their own motivations. Versus, and at times it's going to make you make suboptimal choices for where you as the founder want to go with the business. So I think you're spot on. And that end point, or that interim end point, will become self-evident by virtue of having built a great company where you're not having to constantly raise cash if you don't want to.
That was the pitch in my seed round. In my seed round, I said, here's our current trajectory. I want to double it. I think I can do that with these funds. And additionally, I want to be in a position where we're either going to be in a strong spot to raise a big Series A in 18 months, or potentially seek an early acquisition in 18 months, or, finance this thing with really great debt terms and continue to grow a very strong business. And again, being agnostic about those outcomes, as they're all great for me, as long as I am great for my team. And then, we have discussions internally. What are we feeling? What are we thinking? Can we go for broke? What products do we want to come out with? I love that stuff. And I think that, I think you're right. People get very myopic in their view. Now, I do like the focus sometimes. I talk to other people and they're like, man, Slack's going to acquire me, period, end of story. And that is also very useful in a different way when it comes to, but I like this approach because it gives us a little more flexibility, and also keeps people guessing. But yeah, no, man, I can talk forever about venture capital and raising that stuff. So fun fact, I made my first investment ever last week. And I immediately tweeted, just let me know how I can be helpful. That's what every investor says, right? Let me know how I can be helpful. So I was just like, just let me know. But yeah, so it's a fun ride. And yeah, I agree with your take on VC for sure.
Well, you'll be on, as you keep going this direction, you'll have plenty of opportunities to write some checks. And I'll give you I'll give you a little analogy. So being an operator in a startup is like having kids. And I've got 4 grandkids, and I love my kids, but having kids, they're on you 24/7, 365 until they're out of the house. And that's a burden, and it's part of it, and you love it. Being an investor is like having grandkids. You can fly in, you can see them, you can hang out with them, you can sugar them up, you can have some fun, and then there's somebody else's problem.
Yeah, it's somebody else's problem, and then when they do good, you point to them and you say,
exactly.
Hey,
I did.
Mine.
Yeah, I did that.
That's mine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so true. That's a great analogy. That's perfect.
So come with enough time on Earth, and that's maybe one of them that I've learned over.
Colin, we usually land the plane on these podcasts by asking our guests kind of, if they have the opportunity to go back in time to, maybe 3 years ago when you were starting this, or maybe even go back a little bit further, and have the opportunity to give yourself some advice, knowing what you know now. What would that be? That was just the softball question.
I would have done software. I remember I was like it's gonna be a simple, straightforward product, like no Bluetooth, no firmware, no tooling. Dude, textile is so hard. Like there's everything's hard. Like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter what the hell it is. Physical product, you can pull your hair out. I'm pulling it some of it. But like software is just so much more nimble, and I mean but that's like a big change. Like I love like things. I love like physical stuff. I love being able to like hold and touch and
super easy to understand, right? It's super easy.
The business model is you give us money and we give you goods. It's the best business model in the world. So that's one thing, and then the second thing is like no white packaging. So holy shit, UPS and FedEx have no regard for your packaging. And when I started the company, I did white, and I was like, this is beautiful. It looks so nice. It's so clean. Then we started getting images from customers, and they were like, what happened to this? And it's just like caked in dirt and scuff, and it shows every little scuff and stuff.
Right.
And so we revamped a nice purple box a couple of years ago, and about a year and a half ago. And this is actually, I'm very proud of this because it's a very economical packaging in the sense of this is it. And you slap a label on the front of it, and it goes through the mail. And it might come a little beat up, a ding or a dent here, right? But it's 100% recyclable. And we are the only company in the world that does not have any plastic, not in the world, any bedding company that does not have any plastic in our packaging. So we got our eye masks, care instructions. We wrap them in a knapsack from upcycled fabric from our factory. So that way there's nothing going to waste. And there's zero plastic in this thing, and goes right in the recycling bin. And we actually did have plastic initially in the very first iteration of the packaging. And a bunch of our customers wrote us and they were like, hey, I expect you guys to do better. And we took it out. And now the last, 50,000 pieces have shipped with zero plastic just because of that feedback. Awesome. So
that's great. Yeah. Hey, listen, thanks for coming on with us today. If people want to find out more about you, what's the easiest way for them to find out about the company and et cetera?
I'm easy. Colin McIntosh, Sheets and Giggles, sheetsgiggles.com, amazon.com/sheets. And then you can LinkedIn me, and I'll try to get back to anybody. And I'm also on Twitter, but I don't tweet too much.
Well, good for you. Thanks for coming on. This is awesome.
Yeah, really appreciate you for having me. I hope this is fun for people, and I really appreciate you guys and sharing the company and allowing me to share my story.
You bet. Good luck with all the next steps.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
You bet.
Bye.